Okay, so today I'm going to be walking you through creating your first project without using a Roborio. We're going to be using an Xbox controller and a joystick and getting the output values from the movement of the sticks. All without using a Roborio in the built-in WPILib simulator. So to create a new file, first you have to open WPILib. So I'm going to open a new one. You always want to choose the newest app. Some people might have two different versions of it, one from another year. So always choose the most recent one. Okay, now that we have that open, I want to build a new project. You always click the command palette up here to do stuff related to WPILib, which is building a project, creating a new project, and deploying it to the Roborio. We're not going to be deploying today because we're not using a Roborio, we're using the simulator. But right now we're creating a project. So our project type is a template. Java, we use the Java language. We use a command-based robot. Now we need to select a new base folder. So you could put it anywhere, but it's a good idea to have it in documents and to make a new folder for it. So I have my FRC folder, and then I'm going to write test sim video. I don't know. That's what I'm just calling mine. I'm clicking select. Then we need to name it. That's all fine. You need a team number in here. We are 263, and enable desktop support. Just makes things easier for when you want to do a simulation. And generate project. Yes, in the current window. All right, so that's how you get it open. And to access Java, and here are your files. Here are your files that you can program. There's also some stuff in subsystems and commands, but we're not going to be touching those now. This is the most bare bones program that you can have. So I'm going to be going to my one that I've already been working on a bit. So if you want to make an Xbox controller connected to output some values from the moving the sticks on an Xbox controller. This is how you would do it. So first you need to import the class. So here I imported the Xbox controller class, and it is very simple. You just type import Xbox, okay, and it gives that to you as an option. So you can do that. It gives you some flexibility. You don't have to memorize these things, but it's always helpful. All right, now the second thing that we have to do is we have to create an Xbox controller object, where my object is right here. It's my Xbox controller object. So how this works, I'm defining the type of object, Xbox controller, putting my name, which I call my Xbox controller. Notice that it's in camel case. If your variable is multiple words, start it with a lowercase word. Then the rest of the words after that start with an uppercase letter. Okay, so that's on the left side of the equals. The type of object, and then your specific name for the object. And then on the right side, this never changes, a new Xbox controller, and then parentheses. Now inside that parentheses is the port number that it's going into. There are 6 ports that you can put it into, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's like the different slots that WPILib has available for any controllers to connect. So this 0 is just the standard, so we're putting it at that. I'll show you more about that later. So if we go down to the only ones that we really need to look at is teleop periodic. So teleop is basically the mode where you're controlling it with an actual controller. And periodic means anything inside here gets called multiple times every second. So if we just want to start out with the simplest one, we would do this. Double Xbox Y-axis. So I just made my own variable name. You could make a different variable. It's equal to the object that you made, my Xbox controller, dot get left Y. So what this is doing here is pulling from a method from that object. Let's call it saying get the Y value of the left stick. So if I'm going to recreate that, double, which is variable type, Xbox x-axis, let's do the x-axis this time, equals my Xbox controller, that's your object that you made up there, dot get right x. Okay, so that's the I'm intending for get left x. So this is the x value of the left stick, so the side to side value of the left stick. So now here we have printout of Xbox y-axis. Well, let's try with the Xbox x-axis that I just made. So this is the code that we have. We have an object up there that's defined, and then we have, this is actually working on that object saying, hey, put the value of the x-axis into this variable and print out this variable 20 times, every 20 milliseconds. That's what this teleop periodic is, so it's going to print out a lot of these values. Now, normally you would have to be connected to a Roborio to do this at all, but we can use WPILIB's inbuilt simulator for something as simple as this. So if we're going to click the command palette right here, type in simulate robot code, and it should show up at the top. So you click that, just wait for it a little bit. It builds it, it says it's successful. We have to click Sim Driver Station, then click OK. So you see now that we have these things at the top. You just click this red button to stop it if you're done with the simulation. So here we have the simulation area. Okay, this is simulating the Roborio. So we have a couple of controllers. We have a robot state right here. So this is where we decide what we want to do. Well, we put our code in teleop, so we want to put it in teleoperated mode. Right? You can see here the values are already happening. So what we have here is our joystick 0 is assigned as Xbox controller. You could assign it as joystick 1, and it's showing up as nothing here. You see? You could assign it as joystick 2, but remember up here we have it set to port 0. So we need to move that to port 0. Alright, now I'm going to show you the actual Xbox controller moving. So here we have one. And as I move the stick on here, we have our Xbox controller. So here we have a bunch of values that are being put out. It's not exact. All controllers have some drift, and they're in need of a dead zone because the values aren't going to be exact. But if I push the stick left, it goes very close to -1. If I push the stick right, close, it goes exactly 1. So this is useful for, like, if you're driving, this would move it left, this could move it right. And you could pull those values for that. I'm going to show a very simple way to use a joystick for the same exact thing. So up here, we have joystick. So we just need to import that. So import joystick. There we go. We've imported it. It's yellow because we haven't used it yet. So down here, we have to make an object. Joystick, that's the type of object. I'm going to call it my joystick. Then I'm going to equal it to new joystick. Remember, the right side is always the same. New, and then object type. And here, we specify the port. So I'm going to make it port 0 also. We don't need this Xbox controller. We're not using that. Now that we have the joystick object, we can go down here. And make something of our own. So, double y value equals my joystick dot get y. And if you're confused on how to do any of these things, it's all on the WPILIB website, the types of commands that you can use when interfacing with the joystick or the Xbox controller. So now what we can do is system.out.println y value. And that's just going to print out the y values of the joystick, so I can show you now. Get the simulation up and running. Set driver station, okay. Now we have sees that there's a joystick connected as well, so I'm going to drag this to joystick 0. And you can see I'm moving this around, and on the screen, like a bunch of those axes are moving right here. So if we start this program now, so we have our joystick in port 0 now. So now we can select teleoperated, put it in that mode, move it forward to negative, it's showing us -1, and we can move it backwards, and it's showing us 1. Now that might not be very intuitive to work with. So what if you want, you could negate the value right here. Make it negative y value if you want forwards to mean positive. Or you could also do this right here. So you could do negative and surround that in parentheses, and that makes the y value thing negative. So that might make it a bit easier to work with.